The first time I heard the voice, I thought I was losing it. It wasn't mine. It wasn't Lily's. It came from our parrot, Murphy. He said, in a smooth, low male voice. "Miss me last night? You smell like vanilla." Then, in Lily's exact tone, soft and sweet, just like I remembered from our early days. "Don't tell him." "Okay." I froze. The spatula clattered onto the burner. Eggs hissed and turned to charcoal while I stood there, staring at a birdcage like it had grown a mouthful of teeth. Murphy tilted his head, blinking. Feathers puffed like he was proud of himself. But I wasn't listening to a parrot. I was listening to the echo of my marriage collapsing. We live in Maple Ridge, Ohio. Small town. One grocery store, 3 churches, and a bar called Parker's that hasn't changed its carpet since the 80s. I'm Sean Bennett, 36. Been doing maintenance at a hydraulic pump plant for the past 11 years. Nights mostly. The kind of job where your hands go black and your back gives up before the paycheck hits the bank. Lily, my wife of 9 years, works at Northview Animal Clinic. She's a vet tech. Wears navy scrubs, hair in a tight bun, always carrying 3 kinds of lip balm and her phone like it's part of her body. Says, "Love you," at the end of every text like it's punctuation. No kids. 1 parrot. Murphy. He came with her. A yellow-naped Amazon she rescued in college. Called him her therapy bird. Half joke, half truth. I never minded him. Murphy was loud but honest, and he liked Johnny Cash, which put him ahead of most people in my book. That bird has heard it all, our fights, our dinners, our silences. He mimics the world around him. If you say something twice in front of him, odds are he'll remember it better than you do. And that Tuesday morning, he said something I'd never heard from Lily. Something she definitely never said to me. "Miss me last night? You smell like vanilla." "Don't tell him." "Okay." "Shoo." The tone was soft, flirtatious, intimate. I turned off the burner. Let the smoke curl up toward the ceiling. Sat down at the kitchen table, one hand gripping the edge like I was going to fall off the world. Murphy just whistled. That night, Lily came home late. She smelled like eucalyptus and mouthwash, claimed she'd been assisting with an emergency surgery. Some idiot left chocolate out and their Doberman got into it, she said. She laughed like it was nothing, dropped her keys in the ceramic bowl by the door, and headed to the bathroom. I followed her with my eyes, not my feet. I didn't say a word, didn't accuse, didn't ask. She came back out in her pajamas, asked if I wanted to watch something. I said I was tired, told her I'd be up early. We climbed into bed. She curled up beside me. I felt her breath on my shoulder. Vanilla, strong, sweet, clinging to her like a shadow. The next morning, I told her I'd picked up a second job. Nighttime security at a warehouse in Shadewell, about 30 minutes away. Said we needed the money for the furnace, that the bills were getting ahead of us. She kissed me on the cheek. "You're amazing," she said. "I don't know how you do it." I nodded and smiled like I wasn't breaking apart inside. She had no idea. That afternoon, I drove to Tech World and bought 2 cameras. Small, discreet, black. One went behind the television in the living room. The other I placed inside a fake smoke detector I installed just outside our bedroom. I also bought a voice recorder and positioned it beside Murphy's cage. Everything synced to my phone. No cloud. No risk. Just cold, hard evidence when the time came. I didn't want hunches. I wanted facts. I needed the truth. Thursday morning. Scrambled eggs and black coffee. I pulled up the audio. Murphy said, "God, I miss this. Not here. He'll be home soon." Soft chuckle. That voice again. Male. Confident. Too relaxed to be new. The next hour, I spent pacing the kitchen. My steel-toe boots thudded against the tile. Murphy watched from his perch, silent now, like he knew he'd already said too much. I left for work that evening but parked 3 blocks away from the plant and stayed in my truck, watching the screen. No new activity. No movement. But I knew better now. I'd seen the tip of the iceberg. Saturday. Lily told me she had a spa day planned with Denise. Facials, nails, mimosas, she said. "We're going all out. Don't wait up." She left at 10:56 a.m. I watched from the living room window, barely breathing. At 1:13 p.m., the hallway camera pinged. A man. Tall. Brown's cap. White sneakers. A paper bag from Valini's Deli in his hand. She opened the door smiling. They kissed. Not clumsy. Not awkward. Familiar. He kicked off his shoes, dropped the bag on the table, and followed her down the hall. Straight into the bedroom. That night, she came home glowing. Said the hot stone massage was amazing. Told me a joke about Denise snoring during the facial. She poured herself a glass of red wine and curled up next to me like we were still in the honeymoon phase. And Murphy? Murphy stayed quiet. Maybe even he was disgusted. Sunday morning, Murphy spoke again. You make me forget she exists. You're so bad. Chill. He might hear. I sat in my garage in the cab of my '97 Ford, listening to those lines on loop. The screen dimmed after a while. I didn't touch it. I just sat there, jaw tight, chest hollow. And then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Kentucky area code. I answered. Sean Bennett. Yeah. Who is this? My name's Gavin Rhodes. I work with Lily. We need to talk. It's about what she's been doing. Gavin Rhodes didn't sound like someone looking for drama. He sounded tired, controlled, like someone who'd been chewing on the truth long enough it started to rot. His voice over the phone was calm, almost too calm, the kind that comes before a storm. We met that same afternoon at Millie's Kitchen, a faded little diner wedged between a vape shop and an abandoned gas station off Route 28. The blinds were crooked, the coffee was burnt, and the waitress looked like she hadn't smiled since the late '90s. Perfect. I sat in the booth near the window, watching traffic crawl past in the cold. Gavin walked in 10 minutes late, wearing a gray hoodie, jeans, and the unmistakable look of a man who didn't sleep well. Sean? He asked. I nodded. He slid into the seat across from me, glanced around, then leaned in. You probably hate me already, he said. Depends what you say next, I replied. He swallowed hard and dropped a flash drive on the table. She's been using a fake name. Caroline Green. That's the email she registered at the clinic under. Second phone, second login. I saw her with the guy. Twice. Thought it was weird, but then I started seeing more. Emails. Transfers. Room bookings. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. I stared at the flash drive like it might burn a hole through the formica. Why tell me? I asked. He shrugged. Because I made the mistake of staying quiet once before. Watched a friend get destroyed because I didn't speak up. Not again. I slid the flash drive into my jacket pocket. No words. Just a nod. Check the email thread from 3 weeks ago, Gavin said. Subject line says Vegas. That's the one that'll burn. He stood up, paused, then added, She's good, man. But Murphy? Murphy don't play. I didn't go straight home. I drove around aimlessly for 2 hours, stopping at a Walmart parking lot on the edge of town, sitting in my truck with the heat on low, just staring. When I finally made it home, Lily wasn't there. She had texted me earlier, said she picked up an extra shift. I doubted it. I pulled the blinds, locked the door, and plugged the flash drive into my laptop. The folder opened to 36 documents. Photos, PDFs, hotel confirmations, emails, travel itineraries. I clicked on the first email. It was from Caroline Green to a man named RC. The message was short. Subject, transfer complete. Used his login again. Same password. Easy. College fund cleared. Starting fresh by October. He'll never know what hit him. I stared at the screen, feeling the heat in my chest crawl up to my neck. She used my login. My password. That wasn't just betrayal. That was theft. Mason's fund. The account I'd been adding to every single month for my nephew since his dad, my brother, passed away. The one thing I swore I'd protect if it killed me. Gone. She didn't just cheat. She stole a future. That night, I acted normal. Set the table. Cooked pork chops. Lily walked in just after 8, hair damp, cheeks pink. She kissed me, smiled like everything was fine, then opened a bottle of wine. Long day, she said. Same here, I muttered. She didn't notice my hands shaking. We ate dinner. Talked about the weather. I even made a joke about the Browns' offense. She laughed. I think that's what hurt the most. How easy it was for her. Monday came. I called in sick. Spent the entire day printing out documents. Booking a lockbox. Uploading everything to a separate drive. Labeled it all. One copy in my backpack. Another hidden in the garage behind the insulation. Then, late that night, Murphy spoke again. Room 219. Tuesday. Noon. Valenti's. His voice was clear. Certain. Calm. He said it again. 219. Valenti's. Don't tell him. I knew what I had to do. Tuesday morning, I borrowed Shane's pickup truck. Parked across the street from Valenti's Deli and waited. At 12:04 p.m., Lily arrived. Hair curled. Heels clicking on the pavement. No scrubs. She stepped into the deli, ordered a coffee, and sat outside at a bistro table. At 12:11 p.m., the man arrived. Tall. Broad shoulders. Beard. Brown's cap. He sat next to her. They didn't kiss. Didn't touch. But they weren't strangers. I followed them at a distance as they walked 3 blocks down to the Maple Grove Inn. She checked in. Room 219. He followed. I didn't go in. I didn't need to. Instead, I drove home, sat in the dark, and planned my next move. Because I wasn't going to scream, or fight, or plead. I was going to vanish. Wednesday morning, Lily woke up alone. No Sean. No tools. No clothes. No truck. No Murphy. On the fridge, taped with the magnet we got on our honeymoon, was a single note. Murphy doesn't lie. But you do. Goodbye. On the kitchen table was a manila folder. Inside it, flash drive, documents, passwords, receipts, printouts. Every message. Every booking. Every dollar she stole. She tried calling. I had already canceled my number. She tried Gavin. He blocked her the same hour I left. I was gone. 3 states away, halfway to nowhere, in a motel room that smelled like disinfectant and freedom. Murphy sat in his travel cage next to me, munching on a slice of apple, happy as can be. He looked at me and said, "Goodbye, Lily. Bad girl. Sean's not home." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was done. Lily stood in the kitchen holding the note. I left like it had just bitten her. Murphy doesn't lie. But you do. Goodbye. The handwriting was unmistakably mine. Neat block letters, like I'd used a ruler to carve the truth into her perfect little world. Her fingers trembled. She crumpled the paper and dropped it in the sink, then just stood there, barefoot on the cold tile, looking around like the furniture might start talking. Everything was too quiet. She walked slowly through the house. No jacket on the hook. No boots in the tray by the door. No keys on the counter. No lunch pail in the mudroom. The coffee mug I used every morning, chipped rim, stained from years of factory sludge, gone. And the cage by the window? Empty. Clean. Murphy was gone. "Murphy," she said, tentatively. Then louder. "Murphy." She searched every room like maybe he'd fluttered behind the shower curtain or was perched on top of the fridge waiting for applause. But it was obvious I'd taken him, and I hadn't left anything behind. She called my phone 3 times that morning. Then she called the police. Meanwhile, I was 3 states south, holed up in a motel outside Knoxville. Paid in cash. New number. No forwarding address. No digital footprint. I used the name Clint Matthews at check-in, just because it sounded like someone who didn't get asked questions. The motel room smelled like old mop water and cigarette ghosts, but it was quiet. That was what I needed. Quiet. Murphy was doing well. I set his cage up by the window where he could see sunlight and birds flitting around the power lines. I fed him bits of biscuit from the Waffle House across the road. He whistled when I came near, blinked slowly when I talked to him. He still mimicked Lily's voice sometimes. "Don't tell him. You smell like vanilla. Room 219. Bad girl." I listened. Always. Every phrase was a piece of the truth I'd missed while living in that house like a fool. One morning, while brushing my teeth, he said something new. "Sean doesn't love you anymore." My hand stopped halfway up to my mouth. I didn't teach him that. But it came out so perfectly, in a hushed, sorrowful voice, like he was confessing it to someone. Like maybe I'd said it when I didn't even know I meant it. Maybe he'd caught it in a whisper. Or maybe Lily said it, mockingly, like she always did when she played both sides. Either way, it was true. And Murphy never lied. Back in Maple Ridge, Lily was unraveling. The police listened to her at first. She told them I was emotionally unstable, claimed I left without taking medication. I've never had a prescription in my life. Then she cried, brought old anniversary photos, showed them my old texts taken out of context, cherry-picked, said I was showing signs of paranoia. They filed a missing persons report. For 2 days, she controlled the story. Then the assigned officer called my sister, Kate. She didn't hold back. Sean didn't disappear. He left, she told him. And if you check her kitchen table, you'll find a folder with everything she's done. Proof. They checked. And they dropped the report. Quietly. Lily didn't post about that. She turned to social media next. Betrayed. Ghosted. Abandoned. She posted black and white selfies with captions like, "Healing isn't linear," and "What doesn't kill you?" She shared a long-winded post about how I was controlling, jealous, and financially manipulative. People believed her at first. Some friends even messaged Kate asking if I was safe. Kate sent them the folder. After that, the silence came. And Lily couldn't handle silence. In Knoxville, I was adjusting to my new life. I'd bought a burner phone, just in case. No apps. No accounts. No messages. Just the occasional weather alert. I kept Murphy close. We had a routine. Coffee in the morning, radio in the afternoon, long talks at night. He'd perch on the windowsill and mimic whatever music was playing, then fall asleep to the sound of my voice reading old car magazines aloud. He was more than a bird. He was company, a witness, a piece of the old world that hadn't turned against me. I should have known it wouldn't last. 1 week after the silence, I got a letter. No stamp, no postmark, just slipped under my motel door. 6 pages, front and back, handwritten, ink smudged in places. Still smelled faintly like that vanilla lotion she used to bathe in. It began. You stole everything. The rest was a fever dream of accusations. I was a coward, a narcissist, a parasite. She claimed Murphy was just a bird, and I was sick for using him. She said she'd raised him, loved him, and that I'd stolen him to punish her. That line? That's when I knew she was afraid. She wasn't mourning a pet. She was afraid of the only voice left that still told the truth. That night, I saw the silver Nissan parked across the street. Lights off. Windows dark. Didn't move for over an hour. I sat in the shadows with Murphy beside me, one hand on the handle of the drawer where I kept a crowbar. Eventually, the car started and rolled away, slow and quiet. I didn't sleep. The next day, Murphy didn't whistle, didn't mimic, didn't blink. He just sat still on his perch. I opened the cage. Come on, buddy. You want some biscuit? Nothing. His feathers were dull. His posture slack. Panic rose in my chest. I checked his water. It was full. I checked the food. Untouched. I didn't know what to do. Then I noticed something taped to the outside of my motel room door. A scrap of notebook paper, written in thick, black Sharpie. The bird dies. I spun around, heart hammering. Ran to the cage. Murphy had collapsed. Still breathing. Just barely. I called 4 vets. One answered. They didn't treat birds. I wrapped him in an old shirt and held him in my lap, whispering, "You're okay. Stay with me. Please, Murphy." But 10 minutes later, he stopped breathing. No blood. No bruises. No struggle. Just gone. I buried him behind the motel, beside a dumpster and a chain-link fence, under a patch of wild grass and cigarette butts. I marked the spot with a broken brick and scratched his name in it with a screwdriver. Murphy, he told the truth. Then I sat there for a long time. I didn't cry for him because he was a bird. I cried because he was the only one who never betrayed me. Because he saw everything, heard everything, and still stayed. And Lily killed him, to shut him up. 3 days later, I got a message. A burner email. No name. Just a subject line. Come home. The body? I warned you not to leave me. Come back before I finish what I started. No signature. But I knew. She wasn't done. She wasn't finished. Murphy was just the beginning. And I was next. I wasn't supposed to come back. But grief has a way of curling into your ribs and twisting there until you do something stupid. Something unfinished. Murphy was gone. Buried behind a rundown motel in Tennessee, beneath a patch of dirt I couldn't water. The only witness I'd ever trusted. The only one who never lied. I thought I could outrun the silence. I couldn't. So I came back. Maple Ridge was exactly how I left it. Rotting leaves on the sidewalk. Same cracks in the pavement. Same pale blue mailbox at the end of our street where Lily once threw out an anniversary card because she didn't like the envelope. The house looked smaller. Sadder. I unlocked the door. The smell of stale perfume and burned candles hit me immediately. Like desperation had a scent, and this was it. Photos were turned face down on every shelf. The chair I used to sit in after work was gone. So was my Carhartt jacket from the coat rack. The fridge buzzed like it hadn't been cleaned in weeks. The only thing left untouched was Murphy's cage. Empty. Scrubbed sterile. But somehow still heavy with presence. I went upstairs. Our bedroom was colder than I remembered. I opened the drawer she'd once screamed about me staying out of. And there it was. The velvet box. Lily's grandmother's jewelry. The crown jewels of her ego. A pearl necklace. 2 gold rings. A ruby brooch so red it looked wet. Earrings too dainty for someone with a voice that could cut glass. I stood there for a long time. Then I zipped the whole lot into my backpack and walked out the front door. Becker at the pawn shop didn't say much. 6,000, maybe a bit more if the stones are real, he said, weighing the box in his palm. You sure about this? More sure than anything in my life. He handed over the cash. I walked out lighter. I rented a dusty little storefront one town over in Ridgefield. It had yellowed wallpaper and a leaky ceiling, but it had potential. I painted the sign myself. Murphy's Nest, Parrot Rescue and Supply. The windows were smudged, but inside, I lined the walls with perches and bird toys. Bought 4 cages. Adopted 3 rescues. Hung a photo of Murphy right behind the register, him with his head tilted like he always knew the punchline before I did. Every morning, I opened the door, brewed a pot of coffee, and waited for someone to care. Sometimes they did, and that was enough. She found me. Of course she did. Thursday morning, a little after 9. The bell above the shop door jingled. I looked up. Lily stood in the entrance, sunglasses too big for her face, red lips curled in that smirk she used when she was about to destroy something. She looked around, took in the cages, the shelves, the photo of Murphy. And then she laughed. "This is what you did with it?" she asked. "You took my grandmother's legacy and bought birds?" "His legacy," I said, nodding at the wall. "You pawned family history," she hissed. "You know how long the jewelry's been in our family?" "Not long enough to stop you from burning our marriage down." Her face cracked, then hardened. "You loved that damn bird more than me." I didn't say anything. "You always did," she said. "And now you've built a shrine." "No, I built a rescue." He mattered. She stared at the photo. Her voice dropped. "You should have left it buried. With him." Then she turned and stormed out. Didn't buy anything. Didn't say goodbye. But I knew that wasn't the end. The fight wasn't over. It was just loading. 3 days later, she came back. Not to talk. To scream. To accuse me of destroying her lineage, of robbing her soul. Customers left mid-purchase. One African gray started muttering "bad girl" on repeat. A cockatoo mimicked her shriek. I stood behind the counter, hands folded. "Call the cops," a woman whispered to me on the way out. I already did. I filed a restraining order the next day. Installed 2 new cameras. Bought a new lock. I even started sleeping at the shop, on a cot in the back room, just in case. And then it happened. The fire. 1:41 a.m. The phone buzzed. "This is Officer Mays with Ridgefield Fire. Sir, there's been an incident at your property on South Lane." I didn't even change clothes. Drove there with my heart in my throat. The flames had already eaten the back wall. The windows melted like wax tears. The sign was ash. One of the cages lay half-melted on the sidewalk. Gasoline can found in the alley. Footprints matching size 7 women's boots. Security camera showed her car's silver Nissan, pulling out 10 minutes before the alarms went off. She'd watched it burn. Like she wanted me to see it. She was barefoot when they arrested her. Wrapped in a fire blanket, hair matted to her face, red lipstick smeared like blood down her chin. The cops led her to the cruiser. She didn't struggle. Just turned her head. Stared at me across the flashing lights. "You chose him," she said, like it explained everything. Then louder, for the officer beside her. "It was the bird's fault. All of it." They shut the door. She didn't look back. The next morning, I went to what was left of Murphy's nest. Swept up glass with hands that had been building something. Cleaned soot from a photo frame with his picture still intact. And I hung a sign on the charred front wall with a hammer and 3 nails. "In memory of Murphy, the bird who never lied. Truth still lives here, even in the ashes." You'd think when someone burns your business to the ground, that'd be the end of the story. It wasn't. It was only the beginning of mine. Because I wasn't just going to move on. I was going to make sure the world saw who Lily really was, and I was going to do it in a way she couldn't control, couldn't lie about, and definitely couldn't burn. After she torched Murphy's nest and blamed the parrot for everything, she was arrested, denied bail, and booked on felony arson and criminal mischief. The fire marshal found accelerant near the back entrance. She didn't even try to deny it. She just said. He chose the bird. I told him I'd finish what I started. It made the local news. Brief segment. No names. No photos. But I recognized the house behind the police tape. My house. My life. They called it a targeted act of revenge. They had no idea. The morning after the fire, I didn't go to court. I went to the cabin my brother left me in his will. An old place out by Lockridge Lake, 2 rooms, 1 stovepipe, and more quiet than most people can handle. It was where I first told Mason about Murphy, where I took my first real breath after leaving Lily. I hadn't been back since. But now? Now I needed a war room. I set up shop there, hammered a table together, put up soundproof foam panels, rigged an old USB mic to a laptop, and started writing. Writing everything. Then I called Gavin, the guy from Northview Animal Clinic, the one who gave me the flash drive, the first clue. Turns out, Gavin had a cousin named Matt. Matt ran a growing podcast channel called Shattered Glass, true crime, betrayals, domestic cases, all told from a raw, first-hand perspective. I told him I had a story that had everything: infidelity, fraud, identity theft, theft of a dead man's college fund, animal cruelty, arson, and one parrot that knew too much. Matt flew in 2 days later. We recorded for 9 hours straight. Matt asked questions like a detective. I answered like I was unloading 10 years of dead weight. He let me talk. Never interrupted. I played the audio clips of Murphy. Don't tell him. Okay. Shoo. You make me forget she exists. Use the login. Same pass. Sean doesn't love you anymore. Even Matt went quiet. This is chilling, he said. It's all real, I told him. Every word. Every dollar she stole. Every lie she spun. That bird was just repeating the truth. When we were done, he sat back, eyes glassy. Then said, this won't just be an episode. This will be a season. And it was. 3 weeks later, Shattered Glass dropped its most explosive story ever. The Bird Knew First, a husband's tale of betrayal and burned wings. 6 episodes. Each one darker than the last. The story gripped people instantly. Listeners flooded the comments with things like, I can't believe someone blamed a parrot for her crimes. This is the most compelling betrayal story I've ever heard. That bird deserved better. Justice for Murphy. By the end of the first week, it had over 5 million downloads. But that wasn't the end. A segment producer from a national morning show, Daylight America, reached out to Matt. Then to me. They wanted an interview. A sit-down. A special segment on gaslighting, greed, and the pet who knew too much. I didn't want to be a TV star. I wanted the truth out. So I said yes. The studio was surreal. Makeup, lights, pre-interview questions, and a green room stocked with things I couldn't pronounce. The host, Bridget Crane, had that kind of polished sympathy you only get after 20 years of pretending to cry on camera. Sean, she said during the pre-roll, just speak from the heart. I did. I told America everything. How I found the jewelry. How I opened a parrot shop with it. How she burned it all down. And how a bird gave me more truth in 10 minutes than she gave me in 9 years of marriage. They played clips of Murphy on air. The audience gasped when they heard. Room 219. Sean's not home. He doesn't need to know. Some even laughed when Bridget said that bird was better than a detective. I didn't laugh, but I smiled, because Lily was still in jail. And now? The whole world knew why. The episode aired on a Tuesday. By Friday, my phone had over 300 messages. Strangers thanking me. Victims of narcissists. Men and women who had been through emotional abuse. People who said they finally felt seen. A lawyer emailed me. Offered to represent me pro bono in a civil suit for the damages. I didn't even have to ask. And Lily? She tried to sue the podcast. Claimed it was defamation. That the clips were doctored. That it was parrot fraud. Whatever that means. The judge dismissed it in under a week. The evidence was too strong. Her name became shorthand for betrayal in a dozen online forums. There were memes. Songs. Animated clips of Murphy whistling while Lily screamed. A parody skit on Saturday Night Sideshow went viral. And through it all, I stayed quiet. Until her sentencing. I didn't speak in court, but I showed up. Sat in the back. Watched her walk in, shackled, orange jumpsuit, thinner than I'd ever seen her. She didn't look at me. Maybe she couldn't. Maybe she finally understood what it meant to lose the narrative. The judge gave her 12 years. She cried then. Not when they arrested her. Not when the cameras rolled. But when they said 12. That's when she broke. And that's when I finally let her go. Back at the cabin, I opened a second sanctuary. Started with 5 birds. Now I had 15. People donated cages, toys, feed, money. Some came just to talk. Survivors. Widows. Dads who lost custody. Women who lost homes. Every single one of them had a story. And somehow, they all started the same way. I didn't see it until it was too late. I always told them the same thing. Murphy saw it first. They say revenge is best served cold. But what I learned, revenge is better when it's careful, calculated, drawn out so slowly it becomes a kind of art. The kind you don't hang on a wall but air out in public, with cameras, microphones, and receipts. I was going to make sure she was remembered, not for her lies, but for the truth she couldn't hide from anymore. After the fire and the sentencing, things got quiet, at least on the surface. She was in prison, 12 years, minimum. Public reaction was explosive, then predictable. The comments, the memes, the TikToks, they made her famous in the exact way she hated. Murphy's name trended for 3 days. But I wasn't finished. Because in the stillness of the cabin, my brother's cabin, the one she never touched, I was building something. Not just peace. A reckoning. It started with an email from someone named Tasha. She said she'd worked with Lily at a spa in Columbus 5 years ago. And she had stories. Horrifying ones. About Lily manipulating elderly clients, getting herself written into a man's will, then showing up at his funeral like a grieving widow, until his actual family kicked her out. About blackmail, identity theft, faked injuries for sympathy. Then she sent me the proof. Screenshots, old texts, and one voice memo that chilled my blood. It was Lily's voice. Unmistakable. Laughing. You just have to act sweet. Old men believe anything with soft hands and a little perfume. I forwarded it to Matt, the podcast producer. His reply was immediate. We're not done. We recorded a new bonus episode. Episode 7, The Scars Before the Fire. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about who Lily had been long before Murphy ever opened his beak. The response was staggering. Thousands of listeners flooded in. People from Lily's past began contacting the show. A high school classmate, an ex-boyfriend, a former landlord. Each one had a piece of the same puzzle. They all said the same thing. I didn't know what she was capable of until it was too late. The podcast went viral all over again. And then came television. A production company out of Los Angeles, Glassgate Studios, contacted Matt. Said they wanted a full docuseries. Interviews. Reenactments. Real evidence. They called it Feathers Don't Burn, the story of Murphy, lies, and the fire that spoke the truth. I flew to LA for filming, sat under studio lights, and told my story one more time. This time, to a camera. I showed them the last photo of Murphy, played the recordings, stared straight into the lens when I said, she killed him because he told the truth. And the truth is louder than fire. After the filming wrapped, I took a long walk along the California coast. People recognized me. Some shook my hand. Others said, "Justice for Murphy," or "That parrot was a hero." But the best moment? An old man with a cockatoo pin on his hat came up and whispered, "Your story saved my daughter from a woman just like her." I nodded. Couldn't speak. Sometimes justice doesn't come with a verdict. Sometimes it's just knowing you stopped the cycle. But I wasn't done yet. While Lily rotted behind bars, I filed one last legal motion, a civil suit for damages. Matt helped me connect with a top-tier lawyer. We sued her for everything: emotional abuse, malicious destruction of property, financial theft, defamation. The court didn't even flinch. They froze her assets, auctioned off what was left, garnished what little income she'd earn in prison labor. The judge awarded me $328,000. Not a penny from her, but from her estate. Her grandmother's. The same jewelry I pawned to build Murphy's nest. I bought it back, and I melted it, poured it into a custom chime. 3 gold rods, 1 ruby red spinner in the center. Every time the wind blows at the new sanctuary's entrance, you hear the sound of her legacy rattling against the one thing she tried to kill. Memory. The new shop opened on the anniversary of Murphy's death. I called it Murphy's Echo, Sanctuary and Truth Center. Bigger than the last. Built with reclaimed wood from the old shop. Birds in every room. Visitors from every state. Kids painted murals on the side. Green feathers, gold lettering, wind chimes made from broken bits of old cages. I gave a speech. Told them about Murphy. How he didn't just mimic. He remembered. He warned. How he saved me. And how Lily's biggest mistake wasn't cheating, or lying, or burning a shop down. Her biggest mistake was thinking feathers could burn.